The honourable member for Sherwood Park.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you to the member from Calgary Edgemont for sponsoring this bill. It's a very good one. I have a passion for good decision-making and development of robust policy. A good policy is providing universal access to free prescription contraceptives for all Albertans. It's the right thing to do. It's good health policy. It will stand the test of time, and it is good economic policy. When the government gives a woman the opportunity to make her own decisions about when to have a baby, she generally does a great job of figuring it out if she is in a position to raise the baby well. We can talk about bad policy here in this Assembly. There is so much being offered by this government to address. Removing all salary restraints for Alberta's various agencies, boards and commissions, and giving all the power and discretion on compensation to people appointed to ABCs, to Cabinet and the Premier, not good policy. Repealing the legislative protections that were in place to prevent the excesses, largesse, grifting and cronyism that was common under previous governments, conservative governments, not good policy. The UCP will be unrestrained and less transparent when they appoint their friends and supporters to government-funded ABCs. An offensive abuse of power by the UCP and is changing the Conflicts of Interest Act for MLAs, which are currently can only be changed through a transparent process with public input. They will remove legislative limits on gifts that MLAs can receive, and it will also prevent the Ethics Commissioner from proceeding with investigations into MLA activities during an election campaign period. The legislative limits on gifts to MLAs from a single source is currently set at $200. This limit is fair. Elected public servants do not need to be lavished with more expensive gifts in order to govern well. Perhaps the government will consider maintaining the limit set on the gifts for MLAs, but making it an exception to allow the Premier to attend NHL games. While Albertans are facing an unprecedented cost of living crisis, the UCP wants to eliminate the limit on perks and gifts. I am a father of daughters. We cannot continue to tell our daughters that they can pursue their dreams and then put barriers in front of them. Trust our daughters, give them universal access to free prescription contraception. It is the right thing to do. Many Albertans do not have health insurance plans, not even government-funded insurance plans. But they do not have coverage for prescription contraceptives like IUDs or Plan B or oral hormone pills. Why should we leave it up to insurance when we could pass a motion that would save many people thousands of dollars? The government of BC passed this legislation last year. It has been a huge success. This government often references the mining practices in BC as the model to follow. Perhaps they could also follow BC on this. When BC passed their prescription contraceptive bills, the response was overwhelming. So overwhelming, in fact, that clinics were flooded with requests for IUD insertions. The response is the clearest indication that free prescription contraceptions make a difference in people's lives. There is a large desire for these contraceptives, but cost remains often a prohibitive barrier. So then why is it that this government would consider blocking Albertans from free access to something they desperately want? A nurse in Winnipeg says that accessing prescription contraceptives is absolutely impossible for some. If this is the case in Manitoba and BC, how can the government stand here and say that there aren't Albertans who have no way to access the contraceptives they need? The solution is universal access. It's what BC did. It's what Manitoba is going to do. I understand Ontario is considering doing this as well. It is the trend that we are moving forward with in this country in healthcare. Unplanned pregnancies are distressing and can push a woman into economic turmoil. Why would we not support women and give them the right to access preventative medications? Universal access to prescriptive contraceptives is relatively common practice. Many other countries have it, as the member had mentioned. some of the Nordic countries, other European countries. Alberta is getting left in the dust in terms of supporting half of our population, women. Polling on free contraception in Alberta is incredibly popular. 74% of Albertans have supported this idea based on a poll by Think HQ. It's not the government's job to, is it not the government's job then to represent the interest of the majority of Albertans? 74% is many Albertans that support this motion. Why would you stand in the way? This government has the time to make sure they can access the fancy gifts we've talked about, but they need to work for the people of Alberta that want to have coverage for prescriptions. I think to my daughters, I think to the opportunities that they have. I want all daughters in this province to have this opportunity.